Okay, hello everyone. Just me today. So today we are going to be reading Breathing Through Gills by Hideo Furukawa. This version that we're going to be reading was translated by Professor Morrison in this book right here, Monkey Business. He called it a magazine. It looks like a book to me, so you could follow along in your PDF. Professor Morrison has not made a study guide for this one yet, but he will soon. And anyway, let's get right into it. The time will come. Soon the time will come. This I admit and yet do not admit. I sleep with you again. I take you again in my arms and am held in yours. See how our arms intertwine? What should have been my single arm is now two. My two arms are now four. There's no telling right arm from left. You have one head, I have one head, and they are kissing. You kissing me, you. Kisses that come in no order. Who is doing what no longer matters. I lick your body, forever licking. I have teeth. You must know this. They are between my lips and tongue, but they are hidden. The feel of these teeth, their hardness, this too is hidden. As I lick your body, I remember that underneath the skin are internal organs. There is some kind of organ pulsating. This I can feel, but just which organ is hidden from me? Everything takes place under the skin. This is not my apartment. We are at your place. I would never let you into my place, and for this I think I am responsible. For this transgression, you see, I knew all along what would happen. I lick you all over, forever licking your body. Breasts, and upward from there towards the collarbone. Then toward the head, and up to the throat, the neck. Here are your gills. They are starting to grow in. Still harmless at this point. Talk to me about water, you say. Huh? Water is what? Water penetrates sound. Is that so? And the voices are... Voices? Voices can be heard through the water. Fair enough. This much we conversed. The conversation went no further. I had much to inquire. What are you thinking? What do you think? So you think. Thus I would shower you with questions, but I cannot shower you with questions, not even one. The only thing I can do is make love to you. We make love to each other. My arm becomes two arms, our three arms, our four arms. The order and agent of each kiss no longer matters. We are now the same, but we are not the same. Lungs and gills, both of us for sure, are equipped with lungs. In this respect, we are the same, but you have two breathing apparatuses, lungs and gills. Isn't that right? We are not the same. I had it all wrong. Wrong I was. That's the fact of the matter. Otherwise, I wouldn't be feeling this guilty. But alas, the time has come. The time is at hand. There is a water tank in each room. The tanks appear at first to be for decoration only, but they are actually fully functional. Those are made of acrylic resin and are slightly greater in number. The witches in charge are of the opinion that the fish's natural colors look so vivid because the acrylic tanks have a higher transparency level than those made of glass. Each tank is equipped with either a built-in or clip-on fluorescent light that creates the effect of day and night in the tank. Air conditioning and heating have been installed. The water temperature is maintained at a fixed level. As a life-preserving device, a filter is also in operation. Each tank has sea anemones firmly attached to the sides. Coral sands line the bottom. Each tank is high in salt content, filled with real and artificial seawater. The tanks are brimming with saltwater fish and invertebrates. They are in every room and thus are many in number. The rooms, too, are many in number, as are the witches. There are also the tanks, which are not found in any of the rooms. But these I will discuss later when I explain the relocation of the yellow boxfish, a species related to blowfish, that inhabits the western Pacific Ocean. In any event, all of the rooms are well kept. At the very least, the area around each tank is well kept, for the fish would perish if it were not. Keeping the area well maintained is of the utmost importance for life inside the tank. For the livelihood of the fish, a light switch regulates day and night. Water levels, water temperatures, and water quality are also regulated, as is the distribution of the fish's food. The moon's waxing and waning, an external phenomenon, regulates the spawning cycle of the fish and coral. The witches' cycles, too, are regulated by the lunar cycle, and to that the witches tip their hats. The witches, too, are most well kept. They reside mainly on the other side, far from the chaos of the city. They are that which brings order, the antonym of chaos, to the city. Antonymous to that shore is this shore, shore of the real, and the witches freely come and go between these two shores. Through discipline and sheer will, they summon their powers from that shore. Moreover, the order that they bring to the city is akin to the regulation of memories, the city's memories, which transcend those of the individual. All the witches of the city were raised in the city are now full grown. Together, the aquariums constitute the network of witches. This network might be likened to a broadcasting or computer network. Perhaps the best way to understand this is to imagine a TV screen. At first, the witches would catch the abortive migratory fish, one example being the yellow boxfish. Abortive migratory fish is the generic term for migrating fish that are born in tropical and subtropical seas and then ride the Japan Current north to the coastline of Honshu. They live there along the rocky shores until winter, when they are fated to die from exposure to cold water. The witches do not move about in groups. Each witch fishes for abortive migratory yellow boxfish in seclusion along, say, the rocky shores of the Kanto region. As the name suggests, yellow boxfish are shaped like a box. The flesh is safe to eat, unlike their blowfish cousins, and the charming manner in which they swim makes them popular as ornamental fish. The witches read the emotions of the yellow boxfish they catch. Though yellow boxfish are appealing in the way they look, particularly their mouths, and swim, as abortive migratory fish, they harbor emotions altogether different from our other fellow boxfish species that are brought in stores. How far north do we have to migrate? Can we breed here? Why is the water temperature dropping like this? Will we perish? Shall we perish? When winter approaches, the witches collect the fear-stricken yellow boxfish from along the rocky shores and take them away to breed. To breed, of course, in their aquariums. That is, in the aforementioned tanks found in each of the witches' rooms. The witches listen for the breath of the tide, the voice of the tide. Their sorrows can be extracted only when the witches are fully synchronized with the moon. In due course, the witches receive sorrows that perfectly fit the abyss that only the city's shadow vis-a-vis the city, the there vis-a-vis there, here, and the other shore vis-a-vis this shore possessed and irradiate the process to the next sequence. The witches then relocate the candidates into pure aquariums. Referred to by specialists as freshwater bathing, this treatment is designed to remove bacteria and parasites from saltwater fish. Trying business indeed for the fish, whose lives are put at great risk. Although the yellow boxfish should not swim in this pure water for more than 5 minutes at a time, the witches compel each of them to bathe in it long enough to meet the standards of the abyss. After this, only the fish that survive. Then these survivors, that is, those who have twice escaped death's grip, enter the next phase, in which they recuperate in a real or artificial seawater aquarium of standard size. What is particularly remarkable about these fish is their mouths. There one can perceive a sign, a quivering, as if they were about to speak. Then comes the final event, which both is and is not part of the sequence. On the night of the new moon, when all lights, even the sterilization lights, have been turned off, every witch in each and every room watches the glow emanating from the aquarium. The light is actually emulating from the yellow boxfish themselves, from the sheen of their colored scales, while in their black speckles lurks a great darkness. Such light-emitting yellow boxfish, king of all fish, are to be found in every room of every witch's house in the city. Kingfish are, of course, capable of speech, yet one mustn't respond to them. They are usually waited on in their tank by plankton, their lords-in-waiting, which too emit light. When kingfish speak in their unkingly voices, each tank is transformed into a communication device for the witches. Yet these devices only communicate one way. If one were to relocate the yellow boxfish, the newly crowned king of all fish, into a regular seawater aquarium, that is, somewhere else than the witches' chambers, then the tank would become one of the tanks. They would materialize in bank lobbies, underground ticket gates, beside the office, on the corners of cafeteria counters and trendy bars. Thus their order is embedded, so their memories, the city's memories that transcend the individual, will not be scattered. You gradually settle into your gills. Your behavior changes accordingly. I cannot say. I cannot say what might be termed the truth of the matter. If only I could say. Confession is a betrayal. Of my being me, of the city. That's right. City, night, moon. You never seem worked up. The rain falls. You say you're happy for some reason. You don't open your umbrella. You're soaked now. You tell me you snuck into the public pool the other day. You tell me the whereabouts of the water storage tank. The whereabouts of the well. The well? You say the smell led you to it. I can offer you nothing. Not even a single well. I've already given everything to the city. All of it. All of it, you see, will be taken. I cannot talk about the tanks, you say. I see. The tanks are vital? Yes, vital. And made of acrylic resin, impervious to voices. Voices? Sound travels through them. Sound? Underwater. The voices travel. I shall make note of this. I begged the tank. I begged the tank, saying that I would never beg for anything else. I begged for time. The metamorphosis is proceeding apace. You say it feels good when I cry. We are back in your apartment. You in the bathroom, me in the living room. You've been in there for some time now. Concerned, I peep in. You are there, half naked. Your face is immersed in the brimming bath. No, not your face, your entire head. As if you are attempting some odd method of suicide. The water is now up to your shoulders. Your shoulders and head are immersed. I remain unperturbed. I press my face against your naked back. Nuzzling against your body, I weep. You lift your face from the water and happily exclaim, "It's salt water!" Salt water, you repeat. Oh, how much better this feels. All right, then, start licking. Lick these tears of mine. Keep licking. Till you drown in them. We go on a date. We meet at the station. From there we go for dinner, a movie, a walk. You see, dates are an absolute must for relationships. We can't just stay in your room forever and ever. Of course we can't. A river runs alongside the station. You are late. The first sign of a date's unraveling. I keep my eyes fixed on the turnstile, but you never appear. You never got on the train, did you? You came by river. You came, but not by train. You swam here. You say it's easier that way. Easier on the breathing, you say. Your whole body is wet. In 1998, the yellow boxfish made a prediction. The month that follows October will be November. In 2008, the yellow boxfish issued, as king, a command. The day following Wednesday shall be Tuesday. In 2010, the yellow boxfish, breathing through gills, issued a revelation as it sucked in oxygen underwater. The day following January 1st is January 2nd and negative February. All kings are in tanks. All tanks are in rooms. All rooms are contracted by witches, contracted under the names of each witch. The contracts are made either with the real estate agent or the city's shadow. Those with the former are, in most cases, rental contracts renewable every 2 years. Those with the latter are for an indefinite term. And the depth of the contract changes according to the waxing and waning of the moon. A witch is a witch because she uses witchcraft. Kings are kings because they reign over their riffraff brethren, including non-fish, invertebrates, and various types of sea algae. On new moon nights, the witches listen to voices of the yellow boxfish, the king of fish. They try to decipher, interpret. On those nights, the witches do not prowl. Witches have never liked to prowl. Prowling is for familiar spirits, or for the aquariums that are similar transformed into surveillance devices except for those nights with the new moon. The witches read in the kingfish's voices the order of things. They decipher how to regulate the flow of time. In 2003, the yellow boxfish were rather loquacious. To sustain this loquacity, the witches had to carefully select a feed made solely from artificial animal fodder. With wide peripheral vision allows most species of fish to see 2 worlds at once. Some can even see that which is underwater and that which is not underwater. That is, which is above water at the same time. Still more, now that they have become kingfish, they can also appropriate 2 kinds of time into these 2 worlds, into their perception of these 2 worlds. Yet the kingfish have never taken so much as a step, a fin stroke outside their tanks. They never leave the palace, hence the need for constant upkeep. A contract exists here too. In return for tending to the palace upkeep, the witches are guaranteed the right to keep company and even own any of the kingfish. Under no circumstances is that contract to be breached, and punishment will be duly meted out to anyone who disregards it, something which happens once or twice a year. For example, when a witch has her tank shattered by a falling star, but not a meteor, only witches can speak in detail of this star, she is required to damage herself in compensation. There have also been cases of witches blacking out, that is, literally blacking out since they actually disappear both temporally and spatially from the city's surface for a short period of time. Yet they should black out at an inopportune moment, resulting in negligence of their palace duties. Then their powers of witchcraft will be revoked and they will be sacrificed as offerings to the city's amnesia. One unusual incident was caused when a certain witch ate blowfish for dinner. On a new moon night, this witch found herself at a blowfish restaurant. After chewing, swallowing, and digesting blowfish sashimi, deep-fried blowfish, soft-roe blowfish, and jellied blowfish broth, she returned to her room. Then, in these wee hours of the night, a yellow boxfish, the incarnation of the light-emitting kingfish, asked her, "Are you okay with eating human flesh?" It continued, "Have you ingested the meat of my species, the blowfish, as you would that of a man?" The witch suddenly found herself on the defensive. Violating the injunction not to respond to the kingfish voice from the tank, she began to respond to her interrogator, and in a poof, her world vanished. Another case involved what seemed to be an act of providence. There was a certain witch who had recently lost a close relative. The witch returned home to attend the funeral. In the middle of the vigil, she remembered that she had forgotten to set the timer for the light inside the fish tank. Without the timer set, there would be no transition from day to night. All the same, she reassured herself, "It is my father who has died, and still so young, and it would be 7 days before the new moon, and I have set the timer for the food dispenser at least." So she decided, after much hesitation, that it would be all right for the fish to go just this once without night falling inside their tank. For she was, after all, truly overwhelmed with sadness at the loss of her father. Such was her dilemma. She was torn between her own sadness and her concern for the fish missing a single night in the tank. In the end, however, she chose to remain in the funeral. In other words, she put her concern for her own kin over that of the moon. Needless to say, such behavior is not becoming of a witch, for this was precisely the moment she should have employed her special powers. So after the funeral, she returned to her room only to find the yellow boxfish dead as a doornail. In fact, everything inside the tank, from the anemone fish, the sea anemone, to the damselfish, to the blood sea bream, to the akamo shrimp, were dead. And most crucially, the yellow boxfish, king of all fish, was floating on the water's surface, bearing its dead white belly. One night miss, and a whole world was destroyed. She had wiped it out, and she knew it. She could sense its wrath hovering about the room. The kingfish, having reached his end, had cast out that wrath before departing. And she knew she would pay the price for her mistake. Love would be taken from her. There is so much I want to disclose. If only I'd brought you to my room. Then the spell would have been cast on me instead of you. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. I cannot, could not, it would not, could not be. Yet you took me in despite all this. You accepted me, accepted all of me, and why? Why do you never rebuke me, question me, accuse me? Though you know I am to blame. And why these gills? Gills. There's just one more thing I want to ask. How does the world look up here from underwater? Like when I dunk my head in the ocean and look around at what's down there. But we never conversed. We've never conversed like this, not even once. You've never even uttered the word gill. That's right. You're never permitted to respond to what I say. All of the cities in the world have waterways. Some are visible, others, sewers, for example, are not. Of the former, rivers are most conspicuously managed. Urban rivers are particularly well kept. Their banks are carefully monitored, and they already contain order within them. While their banks have a right and left side, they have neither a this shore nor a that shore. Since the concept of that shore does not exist for them, they have no notion of its antonym, this shore. Hence, it is the rivers, which are wholly entrusted to the witches, that bring order to each city. They systematically domesticate and flush out all of the city's memories, memories which transcend those of the individual. In other words, the river is a mold into which memories flow. Furthermore, the rivers flow chiefly for the purpose of benediction. By never remaining still, they render unassailable to the roller of time. The city enjoys planting cherry trees on the banks of its rivers. All its energy goes into coloring the rivers in spring with cherry trees in full blossom. Eventually, all its rivers lead to the sea. This city's topography is such that this happens quite naturally. In the Gulf, the rivers sometimes merge with the canals, and at other times are regulated, most conspicuously, by sluice gates. All eventually flows into Tokyo Bay. Houseboats, anchored and moored, come into view where the rivers meet the ocean. Years have passed since the city's population reached the 10 millionth mark. According to the figures, there is one witch for every 100,000 people. Yet Edo Castle was not protected by witches. Our records all show this. Why then were there no witches in the Edo period? The short and easy, or perhaps uneasy, answer to that is Tokyo and Edo are different cities. But it is not the witches who answer thus. The answer comes not from any of them. The rivers of the city flow through the city. Headed for the sea, the rivers are flowing. At night, the houseboats lose their moorings and depart the coast. They glide over the waters of Tokyo Bay. Gliding, their lights fade into the sea as memories. The rain comes down hard. The rain falls on us, on you, on me, and on our surroundings. You see, the two of us are walking. This is a kind of voyage, albeit a small one. We are on a voyage to the river's end. The canal starts here. Over there is the end of the river's end, and the first sign of the sea's beginning. Riding the wind, the smell of the tide. Salt, breeze, fragrance. There is no sign of anyone around. It's raining so hard. No sign of umbrellas. We, too, are without umbrellas. You like how the rain feels on your skin. With no one around, no one sees us. We are unseen. We kiss afresh. Afresh? You enter the water, I stay back. Do we kiss afresh? Could we kiss again in a series of kisses where it's not clear whom is kissing whom? You enter the water. You are in the water inside the canal, I admit. At the level of cognition, the level of language only. Yet still cannot admit that maybe we are not the same. Here on land there is oxygen, and underwater too is oxygen. Your lungs start to hurt. Maybe we are not the same. Lungs for me and gills for you. The sluice gate. I can see it even through the rain. The sluice reminds me that the sea and non-sea are divided here, that each begins and ends here. I can see clearly now the sluice's thick columns. The tide has reached a bit, and the columns are densely spotted with acorn barnacles that look like a flood meter. The barnacles are marks left by the tide's ebb and flow. The moon is ever present, I think to myself. The sluice gate is open. Maybe underwater, the seawater mixes and dissolves. It is seawater. Seawater it is. As far as the eye can see, I take off my shoes. You are swimming. Close by the shore you are swimming. You cannot hear me now, can you? Do you love me? But you have not forgotten. You have seen to it not to forget. Thus was your reply. Yes, your reply I can hear. Your voice that whispers. Uh-huh. Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. My voice. You can hear my voice? It passes through. Passes through? Yes, it goes right through. The sound. My voice does? I won't forget. Forget what? I won't ever forget. Look, the rain. Rain? The rain is so loud. But here all is quiet. Look, the seawater. Wait. Hey, don't. The salts. No. You disappear into the sea. Into Tokyo Bay. I closed the sluice with my own hands, and thus we parted for good.